basically, as I look back on my life, I have been connected to Fredericksburg Road in a variety of ways, even currently today, because if you look at the downtown campus, we're not very far from 5 Points. And so as I've looked at the progression of my life, it's been up and down Fredericksburg Road, essentially.
Well, we grew up probably less than a mile and a half away from here, across I-10, and Fredericksburg Road was the place that we did all our entertainment on, shopping on. Most of my cousins lived in the Jefferson area, so this was kind of a central point.
My grandparents started the Tip Top Cafe in 1938 on Fredericksburg Road, and they'd had another little place before that. My granddad worked at a Weber's root beer stand and a sandwich shop before 1938, so they came from Dallas and established their home here and working, and got into the business of what is now the Tip Top Cafe at our present location.
Well, I've lived in this neighborhood for, 20 plus years. So my mom lives down the street right off Fredericksburg, and I own several homes in the neighborhood, all really off Fredericksburg Road, coincidentally. And I am the owner of Deco Pizzeria at 1815 Fredericksburg Road. So I've driven this road many times. I've seen it many times.
When I was about, 7 years old, we moved from the Alamo Heights area to Oak Hills, and so I grew up then from second grade through the end of high school in a house that was probably 4 blocks from Fredericksburg Road in Oak Hills.
I'm kind of the amateur historian for the area, Little Flower Basilica, Woodlawn Lake, and so right now I'm working on the Old Spanish Trail Auto Highway, which is from Florida to California. It became Interstate 10, and it runs right up Fredericksburg Road.
I do have memories of my granddaddy's best friend that owned Thompson's Liquor Store, where when my dad caught a big fish, he would take it down there because it was a sporting goods store too, to show the big fish to everyone. Buddy's Drive-In was another great place on Fredericksburg Road. I went to Jefferson High School, and that was a big hangout for most of us. So those are places that I remember well.
As a young driver, Fredericksburg was kind of a drag that we went down a lot, and spent a lot of time, inhabiting various places along there. I remember, well, first of all, I remember the first McDonald's that we were aware of in San Antonio was over on San Pedro, just south of North Star Mall. I think that one is still there. Actually, the first one on Fredericksburg is still there as well. So when that one was built, we were very excited because now McDonald's was close and we could go readily. And I even ended up walking there a couple of times down Fredericksburg Road. But perhaps a more popular haunt for us was the Jim's Coffee Shop that's there on the corner of Fredericksburg and 410. Used to be a Volkswagen dealership next to it. I don't think the dealership is there anymore, but the coffee shop still is. It was one of those things where there were all kinds of shops. The Northwest Shopping Center was there.
When I was 6 or 7, we would go up to Northwest Center, which is a little bit north of the Deco district here, but going and shopping at Piggly Wiggly and the J.C. Penney's that was there.
One of the first jobs I had was at it's corner of Club Drive and Fredericksburg Road. There's now an Easy Pawn there, but it was a drive-in, and I was a male drive-in car hop. It was called the Cheesesteak Company, and they had their own bakery. They had their own distinctive hamburgers, essentially. So I worked there for a while and everything. It was one of my first jobs.
This 300 block altogether, in the early years before 1900, the housing and everything was around San Pedro Park. But after 1900, right about 1910, things began to be built out here. The Beacon Hill Church was built in 1910. Across the street is the chicken hatchery, which was put in 1913 or 14, and then this particular one at 300 is where Hannibal Pianta in 1913 set up his shop to build concrete art pieces all over the United States, and mostly in Texas and the southern United States after he got established here. So that makes this block important.
What diminished it was, of course, the introduction of the interstate. Really, I thought, it came in the late 1940s, but it really degraded the area. I remember, I'll give you a good example of that. Back here on Roy Street, my grandfather's house was a bungalow, and that neighborhood included really kind of these old wood frame houses were built in the early 1900s, late 1800s. When urban renewal came in, they basically, and everybody escaped out to the suburbs, they destroyed all that. And so we lost some wonderful treasures, and that's what happened along Fredericksburg Road with the introduction of the interstate and such. We really lost some unique places.
Traffic has been taken away from Fredericksburg Road ever since they built I-10 about 15 to 20 years ago. They cut a lot of traffic down, so a lot of the businesses from I guess the 1,000 block down to 5 Points have gone down or closed because there's no traffic anymore. We had Handy Andy down the street that was there for a long time, closed down probably in the 80s. Fred's Barbecue that was down the corner at 5 Points, and they've closed down, probably 20 years. We had Wynn's. We had Morris Lock and Key, that was a family-owned business. We had Guzman's Bakery, that had the best bread. We had San Antonio Press down the street. We had Leo's Home Furnishings. He was there for probably over 50 years. But like my father's still alive, but they've all passed and the business is closed. They had nobody to keep them going.
Santa's Barbershop also.
Santa's Barbershop, the Mayan Order, which is a brotherhood. That's no longer there.
Knowlton's Bakery.
Knowlton's, which was across the street, tore down. Used to be a Knowlton's Dairy back in the 20s, I believe. And Galindo Auto Parts was there for a long time. All these businesses were here when my father started. And all gone. There's nothing.
I remember back to where there weren't fast food restaurants, and now they're everywhere. We were kind of the only restaurant around at the time, other than a little Chinese restaurant and the donut shop, which is fabulous down the street. But I think the initiation of fast food restaurants on Fredericksburg Road, that changed things for us.
Up and down Fredericksburg Road, as we said, these buildings were built in the 20s. As you each decade as you go out, up at the 700 block, there is a theater, but it's now been incorporated into St. Anne's Church. There are some little tiny strip malls that were the kind that they put in the 1930s, and those are now either empty. That was Via Primo. That's the biggest change ever. Okay, the little strip malls had parking in front, and as you go on farther out Fredericksburg Road, you'll see the strip malls get farther to the back, and then finally you find the big malls coming in with a lot of parking, because that was the way it was done in those days. You parked right in front of the street, right in front of your little shop you were going to. So those buildings are now being reused as the pig stands is being reused and the gas station is now put to other uses. These are being put to other uses also.
One thing is that I think the city needs to develop an overlay district corridor that really safeguards the corridor, not just in one little block or two, but over the entire length of it from 5 Points on. And I think that the other important thing is you need diversity in the neighborhoods, and that means younger families with children as well as older families as well.
We're waiting for the city or for just people to revitalize it. Like Deco District has gotten really nice, and it's like they miss us down here. We have a lot of nice old buildings here that they can be restored for little antiques or little restaurants or little, tenditas, whatever. And it hasn't happened yet. We're waiting for that.
I envisioned Fredericksburg Road to be a pedestrian-friendly street where you park in one business and you walk up and down and you patronize. It could be an antique store. vintage store, and art galleries, other restaurants that offer diverse food, jazz bar, something that brings class and culture to this neighborhood, like it did decades ago.
I would love to see places built for older people. There's a retirement home, basically apartments across from the restaurant, but our population is aging, as I am, and I think it'd be nice to have everything from retirement communities, nursing homes. The bus line runs right by everything on Fredericksburg Road. There's access to getting to the medical center very easily. I think we need another grocery store in our area. There's a few things that need to come back in to, I think, revive it. But it would be nice if older people could get on a bus and take transportation to a grocery store or to Crossroads Mall or to my restaurant.
The changes are beginning to happen already, and that is so encouraging. The Woodlawn Theater on out was farther out in the country when it was built in the 40s. It has now been restored and has live theater going on in it. Cool Crest Golf Course has just opened, and now you can play golf again there at Cool Crest. These sorts of things are bringing a lot more dynamic interaction on the corridor, and a lot of economic development is going to be encouraged by the neighborhood associations all along the way.
Well, now that things are coming back, really the Woodlawn Theater's back, and some of the other places like Cool Crest, it's starting to feel like home again, actually.